Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the DropKick Podcast. He's a WWE producer / WWE veteran.
You're a 3-time WWE Tag Team Champion.
He's a former WWE Cruiserweight Champion. She's a broadcast personality, former member of the Nexus. He's a 4-time Emmy-winning TV host.
Canadian Wrestling Hall of Famer. She's an ACW Women's Champion. And she is the daughter of the late, great British Bulldog. Winner of WWE's Cruiserweight Classic.
TJ Black from Ring of Honor, TJP, aka TJ Perkins, Georgia Smith, Darren Young, Arnold, Ariel Blake,
Chris Van Vliet,
Wrestling Classic, aka Justin Dillon.
Please welcome Tyson Kidd, everybody.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of DropKick Podcast. Today, we have one of the fastest rising superstars in the world with us today.
He's an MLW World Tag Team Champion.
Pro Wrestling Illustrated's Rookie of the Year in 2019. Please help me welcome the King of Mullets, Brian Pillman Jr. How are you doing?
Hey, today? How's it going, everybody? It's me.
Good,
I'm here. The King of the Mullet and the Prince that was promised. As I have promised, I am on your show. So here we go.
Let's do it, man. How's quarantine been for you, though?
Oh, I don't do quarantine anymore, so I don't know about you guys, but I travel and I train and I wrestle. So I don't know. Quarantine's been over for me for about a month and a half. My gym's been open, so back to doing everything I like to do. I even went to a theme park in Tennessee. Went to Dollywood with my girlfriend. You know, you mask up when you can, but as far as quarantining, I don't quarantine. So I go out and I get my life back. So
that's good.
Which is evident by the work I've been putting in and the shape that I've gotten in. So
for sure.
Yeah, I locked down for 2 months. You know, strictly when they told us to, and when that was up. You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Time was up for me on that. So
the timer just went off, man. But So recently we've been seeing you on AEW Dark. Your most notable work would probably be in MLW, Major League Wrestling. But could you see yourself signing with AEW in the future, or do you feel like you have a longer future ahead of you in MLW right now?
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty good question. Obviously, I wouldn't be showing up at AEW Dark if I didn't desire to be there, right? I'm the kind of guy that I got to make moves, right? Because as you can see during this pandemic, there's a few companies that are running shows, and then there's a few companies that aren't running shows. Right. And MLW happens to be one of the companies that is not running shows. And my like you were saying, being one of the fastest rising stars, well, you can't rise very fast if you're not on TV, right? You can't get to where you want to be in the ring if you're not in the ring having matches.
Yeah,
so
right.
While I respect MLW's, their creative vision they don't want to have shows without fans in the crowd, or maybe they want to keep everybody safe. That doesn't pay my bills. You know what I mean? That doesn't keep me afloat. Doesn't keep my career going. And then you got companies like, Impact running a great show, no fans at all. They still went out there and put out a great product that people were happy with. It's like,
absolutely, man.
What's the gimmick? What's the jig? Why can't MLW play ball? And that's not, again, I'm not trying to talk bad about the company that gave me, like you said, some of my greatest opportunities in my career, some of the greatest matches ever, from top to bottom. The production team to every wrestler in that locker room deserved to be there. And we had a really great roster. This is the test. This is the test of time right now.
Absolutely,
a lot of companies tested, but they aren't communicating with me very well either. So for me, it was a no-brainer. I've always kind of gravitated towards AEW. I have a lot of friends there. A lot of the guys I came up on the indies with are wrestling there. A lot of young talent that are going to be groomed. That are going to be groomed into some seriously big stars once we get these crowds back and we start to see how the crowd interacts. Man. And so I want to be a part of that crop. I want to be a part of that business, of that company. I want to be a mainstay on Dynamite. I want to be there for a long time. So
absolutely,
you can quote it, you can tweet it, you can put whatever you want out there in the world. But my goal right now is to get my release from MLW and move on to AEW.
Mhm.
But I don't know if MLW is willing to play ball with me on that. So hopefully they do. I think they have their hearts in the right place. They have a great product, and I hope it returns and revitalizes itself.
Mhm.
But in the current climate of things, it's just very hard to run shows with a lot of fans.
Yeah, it is, man.
I hope in October 3rd, maybe they get back to business. Maybe we get back to business. Maybe I walk through that curtain and I'm excited to be a part of MLW again. But right now, my goals are set higher, right? You know, I can't go from not having shows and being in a pandemic and being stuck and trapped and depressed and not in good shape to all of a sudden putting all this work in, getting in great shape, training, getting in great ring shape. I'm not going to waste all that energy and not wrestle and wait for MLW to decide when they want to run again. You know, with all due respect to the company, that's just not how it works. You know, I got to put this energy towards a company like AEW who sees a ton of potential in me, gave me 2 opportunities back to back. I was only scheduled to have 1 match.
Oh, wow.
And it was so good that Tony Khan just off the top of his head was like, oh, it's you and Brian tomorrow night, Brian versus Brian.
He knows what's up, man. He's in touch.
He just
sees talent when he sees it, man. They're
Exactly.
doing something special.
Yeah, and then they made me work for that opportunity. You know, if I wouldn't have had a good match with Sean, you know, they might not have given me that second opportunity. But when they tell me this and then they say, all right, and then they're very transparent. You know, they're talking to you. It's nice to have good dialogue, a good conversation with your boss and with the president and vice presidents of the company, and they're sitting down and they're hanging out with the talent and they're really expressing ideas. They're letting you express your ideas too, instead of just playing, you know, smoke and mirrors in the background. So great place, very diverse. Anybody that says that the roster's not diverse enough is clueless. It's probably the most diverse roster I've ever been a part of.
For sure.
All kinds of different people of color, different nationalities. And the whole show is, you know, more than half of the show is on AEW Dark, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm tired of people downplaying it as some YouTube show. You know, it gets 500,000. If the main show on TV gets 750,000, 800,000 in ratings, and then the YouTube show gets 400 to 500,000 viewers, that's not very far off, you know? And I think in the future of business, I think more things are moving towards the internet anyways.
Yeah, you're right. For sure.
For long, it's not going to be really cable TV and ratings and shit. It's just going to all be on the internet anyways. So,
exactly.
Any talent that's getting an opportunity on Dark or Dynamite is 100% getting extreme exposure, especially during this pandemic. They're getting an extreme opportunity. They're getting an incredible opportunity, incredible pay as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All the extra talent, all the wrestlers are paid extremely well, even if they're just going out there and doing a quick job, you know. So, no, I'm in full support of AEW, and I don't like the people that kind of criticize that aspect of it, or they say, oh, Dark is not enough, or oh, this guy deserves to be on TV. It's like, I'm Brian Pillman Jr. You know, I was like you said, I was one of the fastest rising stars in the business, not just because of my name, but because of my work ethic and my ability to travel and my willingness to work with people. And I wasn't complaining about being on Dark, you know. I'm not out here whining about being in front of 500,000 people on YouTube, you know. I got over, so
you got the opportunity, man.
Yeah,
absolutely, man. Absolutely.
People can say what they want, but AEW is definitely the place to be. It's the future of this business. It's the future of pro wrestling, and we're gonna get there. We're gonna get all these stories built up. We're gonna get different people holding different types, people of all different colors and orientations and genders and stuff. So we just gotta be patient. So.
You spoke about AEW there, but how's the atmosphere like actually going there and wrestling, you know, Sean Spears or Brian Cage? How was that for you?
Well, you know, they're the best of the best, right? So I don't have to be as much of a leader as I would in an indie locker room.
Yeah, that's true.
I get to sit back and listen, and I get to look up to a guy like Sean Spears and go out there in the ring and just relax, knowing that he's probably the best worker I've ever been with in the ring, as far as like work great and just making me look good while being also a incredible athlete himself. So people might consider him underrated, but or no, people might say he's overrated, but I think he's underrated.
He's underrated.
I agree.
I think he deserves a lot more.
He does, man.
But it just depends on it. It's you throw different ideas at the wall and you just see what sticks. And I think they're building up something pretty special there at AEW.
Dude, they got so much talent, man.
They're building up some kind of secret faction that they haven't told me about. So.
Oh really?
Oh,
I don't know.
Well, that's very interesting.
So yeah, we'll see what goes on. But again, I'm just trying to earn my spot there and get over with that type of crowd, and hopefully sooner rather than later MLW will grant me my release. That's my goal. I'm not gonna be like quiet about it anymore. I know where I want to be, and I know where I need to be. Yeah. And again, as long as I'm not bashing the company. It's just how you feel, man. Yeah, it's just shows and frustration. And it's maybe just a little bit of impatience. But
it's okay to feel that way, man.
Yeah, in the past, in the way this company, the business was, we always kept these things behind closed doors, and we always respected the business in a way that we didn't air our grievances and stuff. So that's not me. I'm not airing my frustrations or anything. I'm more expressing my goals, and my goals are to get a real contract. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. If we take things a little, excuse me, if we take things a little bit in a flash to the past, the Hart Foundation, one of the most legendary legacies, one of the most legendary factions of all time. How did it feel in MLW to be a part of a newer version of the Hart Foundation with Davey Boy Smith Jr. and Teddy Hart? It must have been pretty special for you.
Yeah, that's what really sold it for me. Also, being in my first year of wrestling, like I hadn't even been wrestling like 3 or 4 months, and I was offered a deal with a TV style contract. And beIN Sports was a really cool channel too, because they were international. We were getting recognized like in Mexico and different countries and stuff, in different Hispanic countries. So it was in Middle Eastern countries as well. When I was over in Qatar, the beIN Sports channel was like on their TV guide like right away, like when I went to the hotel. So a lot of fans from the Middle East and stuff like that was really cool, because they don't get that much wrestling over there.
Yeah, that's true.
So that, and then the Hispanic fans and Mexico, we got to go to Mexico a couple of times. But just speaking on the history of the Hart Foundation, it was just immediately that was the idea to me, was like, okay, this is the story, right? This is literally, what I want to do, right? I want to follow my journey, and part of that was going up to Calgary to wrestle, to train with Lance Storm. Well, it's like I already went up there and trained. I met the Hart family. Oh my God, I almost made the greatest trash can shot of all time, but
you didn't say Kobe though, man.
I know I didn't say Kobe. That was the fallacy. But no, it was just that whole story of like that whole legacy and that to me, that destiny of, okay, this is cool. And I checked with Lance Storm. I was like, do you think that this is okay? Like, will that blessing be received? Is MLW a good company? Is that a good place to do it? And he was pretty much in approval and saying, yeah, Court's a good guy, and MLW, they'll take care of you because you're just now starting out. Like that's obviously true. Like he didn't want me to move too fast and try to go to WWE too soon and then shit the bed. So he was like, you know what, just go fuck around and break a few legs at MLW, basically just break the ice and make some mistakes if you need to. But everything, I did make my mistakes there, and I did have some good matches, some great matches, and some bad matches at MLW. But the way things that were presented online and on YouTube was always just about my story, and it's a real story, it doesn't have to be.
You have a great story, yeah.
It doesn't have to be this kayfabe thing, this is a story about a kid that was thrown into the business very early, very quickly, and had to struggle to survive in high pressure situations, and that's something that Teddy Hart always put me over for is just how well I just kind of faked it until I made it, right? Like I didn't know what I was doing out there with Davey Boy and Teddy and these big 6-man matches with Rich Swann and ACH and all these guys. And then and just constantly being tested in a high pressure situation. But I was able to survive it because I had the charisma and I had the ability to, like I said, just kind of put on a confident face and go out there and own the place and just
sink or swim, man. Yeah.
The crowd and really work the crowd. And then fast forward to now where I'm so much more comfortable in the ring, so much more comfortable with who I am as a performer. So those experiences at MLW definitely crafted the performer and the person I am today.
Absolutely.
And obviously getting the influence from Teddy and Davey Boy, they taught me a lot about what to do and also what not to do. So.
Absolutely, man. Switching topics here a little bit. Over the years, we've seen a lot of wrestlers with different hairstyles. For example, we've seen Tyson Kidd with the bald head and the spikes in the front. But when it comes to you, the king of mullets, what inspired you to get a mullet? Because it's very different, I'd say, and it works on you. So.
Yeah, no, I think they're starting to make a resurgence, but obviously I kind of started the trend here. But no, you'll find like some indie guys in some like lesser known territories like had them before me, but we'll just say I made it popular. For the 2020 era. But no, it was actually started out as like a functional decision. When I was training with Lance Storm, he always had a really good explanation for everything that went on in the 80s and 90s and stuff, and how things came to be. And he brought up the mullets and how guys wanted to have long hair for so they could sell and be flashy, and then everybody checking them out and stuff and have that beautiful head of hair, but then they cut the front so it wouldn't get in their eyes, so you're not always doing this like what do they call that, Seth Rollins, where you throw your hair back every hair flip. It's like, I mean, God, it's got to be so annoying. I've never had that issue. I've never had to move the hair out of my face, and I can just focus on my opponent in the ring and on winning the match, and I'm not distracted by my hair. So it's like what started off as like me sort of memeing it as a functional decision turned out to be, not only did it turn out to be true that works, but it also turned out to be a great decision style wise.
Absolutely,
man. Throwing back to the good old days of wrestling, which is like sort of my gimmick in a way. Like in a kayfabe way, I don't really think I'm like this 80s wrestler style, but in a very
there's like hints and touches of it.
But in a very shoot way, in a very character, real life way. My goal is to take what the older generation has taught us and really respect it and make it real in the ring, instead of this younger crop of guys who kind of shit on the older generation. I'm of the opposite. I'm of the thought that who are these people that made a living in this business, and who made $1 million and who did, you know what I mean? And those are the people whose advice that I'm asking for. You know what I mean? Absolutely. I'm not going to get advice from the guy that broke every bone in his body and didn't get to retire, but he's a legend on the internet because of all these crazy things he did. But it's like, what do you have to say for it? What do you have?
Right.
Yeah.
I want to have a big house. I want to have a family. I want to raise my kids and be able to give them something after I go, after I pass. So I take advice from the guys that really made it, the guys that made a lot of money.
Right.
And oftentimes it's because they listen to the old school veterans on how to get the most out of a little, how to entertain, how to manipulate the emotions of these people that are in the crowds.
Yeah. Absolutely. They know, man. They know what's up.
And it was never about going out there and destroying yourself, and doing everything in the book. And it's like, but there's a modern day twist to it too. Like I wrestled in a modern day style as well. You know, I
Right.
like my mannerisms and my striking, things like that. Like obviously at the same time I'm still playing to this modern day crowd. So I can't forget what my job is. My job is to entertain. You got to know your crowd. You know, I wrestled a show in Alabama the night before, was in like a backwoods kind of area where it was a little bit easier to get those fans. But the very next night I went to Huntsville, which is a major city, and the fans were a lot more savvy to the product. So we had to do more in terms of how we structured our matches and the type of, the type of stuff they wanted to see. You know, we had to work harder for it, you know, because there's a higher standard when it comes to modern wrestling as far as the action goes, the storytelling of psychology and stuff. So, no, I had a really good tour in Alabama because while not many shows are going on with fans, down in the South in Tennessee and Georgia and Alabama, there's shows, you know, people are wrestling, you know, fans are showing up, they're wearing their masks, you know, people are social distancing. It's like how much longer do people want to go without living their lives? You know, at some point, you just got to take the risk and go out there. I mean, they can make up every news article in the world. They can make up every excuse in the book. Oh, well, you shouldn't do this, or if you're immunocompromised. It's like, at the end of the day, we're all immunocompromised, you know. We're all going to get sick. We're all going to get the flu, you know, at some point in our lives. And COVID-19 is a very serious thing, but at the same time, it's like we may eventually get it anyways, you know.
Exactly.
If you're going to end up, I mean, you wait for a vaccine that might be around the corner, but what are they going to do when they give you the vaccine? They're just giving you the shit anyway.
Yeah.
So you want to wait? You want to wait for it to be a full dose, or you want to just go out there and live your life? You know?
Absolutely, man.
Depression and then the mental effects that the lockdown had on me and my body and my figure, my physique was so negative. It was so so much depression and anxiety came from those 2 months of locking myself down. I can't, other than like really being smart, like wearing a mask, doing all the right things. Like I have no problem with all that. You know, I really want people to be safe and to be smart, but to say I'm not going to travel and not get back at it, like I can't do that. You know, I got to get out of the house every day. You know, I don't.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I said, I've been taking all these bookings in the South to make some money again. So I'm back on the road. AEW is flying me in every couple of weeks, you know, so it's really good business for me right now. And I always tell people, I'm like the first people to jump back on the indie wrestling wagon and the first people to get at these shows and get themselves over are going to be the stars leading the charge. You know, they're going to be the stars of the future. But the longer you sit at home and wait and play that game and try to decide, is it safe enough to go out? It's like, it's never going to be safe enough.
It's never going to be safe.
Every time you leave the house, you're risking dying. You know, you're risking the sunlight giving you skin cancer, or you're risking getting in your car and getting in a car wreck and dying. You know what I mean? Every day's a risk, you know, but that's why we live. We live for that. And you can't go out there and make a living in wrestling sitting at home. So.
You're absolutely right about that. And it's funny how earlier you're talking about like the Alabama crowds being different from like different cities and different cities being different from other ones. Because I heard, I believe it was Justin Credible that said that. He said he was working Stone Cold Steve Austin at house shows back in the day. And Austin was just like a genius with the crowd energy, because there'd be some nights where they would just have such a stellar like 20, 25-minute main event.
Yeah.
There's other nights where he just mumbles under like under his hand, all right, kids, stunner 1, 2, 3, and it's over. So it's definitely very interesting for sure.
Yeah, it's like sometimes
speaking of like legacy, and your father, Brian Pillman Sr., has one of the best legacies in wrestling. How does it feel to carry on his legacy, and what does that mean for you?
Well, it was definitely a lot of pressure when I first got in. I really didn't like wrestling as much because I felt like I wasn't doing it for me, but that I was doing it for, you know, just for the fans to make them happy. And like, I didn't understand his legacy as much, and I didn't understand why he was so impactful and so influential. So because as a kid, I just thought, oh, he was this big famous wrestler. But it really takes someone to get into wrestling and really understand it at a deeper level to understand who Brian Pillman was and just how many standards that he set and how many influences and how many different styles that he inspired. You know, it is overwhelming at times to say that I have this on my shoulders and I have to carry this on. But at the same time, I've been getting great feedback as far as being myself, and people are starting to really appreciate Brian Pillman Jr. for Brian Pillman Jr. You know, I'm starting to really step outside of that shadow, and I'm working a style that is more. Like I said, I when I started studying wrestling, I didn't grow up a big fan, really. You know, I had my days where I was just, you know, I was into it when I was young, but once I started getting into my preteen or teen years, I really didn't watch it because I played football and stuff, and like none of my friends were really into wrestling. And again, it was always kind of sour to me. You know, I didn't like seeing it. It's like, oh, you know, if my dad was here, well, I could be doing that too. But, you know, and I never knew that I could be a wrestler because I thought you had to be in the NFL or you had to be 7 foot
There's
tall.
always those standards. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know you could just pick it up and train. I didn't even know there was any local training. So I was just never confident in that. But now after like really experiencing, because like when I got into, like I was saying, when I got into wrestling training, I was just studying as a fan. I was studying the modern product. I was studying the Young Bucks. I was studying Kenny and Cody and New Japan because I was an internet kid. I was a gamer. I didn't watch cable TV. I still don't watch cable TV. If I'm completely honest, I don't watch WWE at all.
Really?
No. Yeah, I never really have. I've always been an internet kind of kid. So I've always gravitated towards that indie YouTube matches, you know, Japanese matches on, you know, you find them on Vimeo or whatever. And it's like, and it's like I'll go back and watch the old stuff, like the old WCW and WWF stuff. Yeah. But I'm not somebody that like turns on the cable and watches Raw and SmackDown.
Right. It's just not your thing, man.
I just don't have cable. And when I do go to my aunt's to watch it, it's just really long and like there's a lot of promos and stuff and like talking and stuff. So it's like I'm trying to watch the matches to get better in the ring. And I don't always, you know what I mean? It's just so much quicker to pull up a 15, 20-minute match on YouTube than to have to go watch Raw and sit through all the commercials and stuff. But no, I definitely stay updated on Twitter and online and stuff. You know, like on Instagram, like I definitely keep tabs on what's going on with the WWE. I just never been a person to sit down and watch it. So it's like I've always just sort of gravitated more towards AEW because AEW fits my kind of fandom as like being an internet kind of kid.
Absolutely.
And that's what I'm saying when people are like, oh, well, you know, like people ask about like who I'm a big fan of, and I'll mention like current wrestlers because that's just how I got into wrestling was through the whole, you know, Young Bucks and the Ring of Honor shit. And all those things that they did that led to the eventual building up of AEW, you know. So in a weird way, I'm kind of like an AEW fan that just happened to be like the son of a fucking legendary wrestler that wanted to get into wrestling and ended up having pretty good talent for it and a pretty good body for it. And I think, you know, I'll fit right in with that product and I could very well be one of the biggest stars in the company if you give me a few years, you know, give me about
definitely see that
2 years. I think I'll be one of the biggest stars in the business, but that's just because I have that calling and I have that calling to that company. You know?
It's just meant to be, you know what I mean? And I feel like everything is out there for different people, so people can watch Japan, and you know, some people want that WWE kind of style or AEW, so or even NXT. So I think there's a lot of options nowadays. Well, back then it was just like WCW or WWF, you know what I mean? So it's really cool nowadays to see that, you know, change. But recently we've been watching David Benoit's Instagram live streams, and he's been working hard and he's trying to make his in-ring debut soon. Would you say David Benoit versus Brian Pillman Jr. is a dream match of yours?
So I've always been buddies with David. I didn't know that he was actually working on his in-ring debut. That's something that's
training.
That's very I like to hear that because
For sure, man.
Let's see. Where did you see that at? Is it on his Instagram?
So
Yeah, it was on his Instagram
basically
Live.
on his Instagram Live, he doesn't have a set date for his debut. He doesn't know where it's going to be,
Awesome.
but basically he's been training in the ring. I'm pretty sure.
I was gonna say, where's he been training at?
Not sure.
Well, we were actually on his live, and he was kind of hinting towards it. He kept showing his T-shirt a little bit. It looked like the fitness logo that Natalya and Tyson Kidd train, but you never know. I
never
could
know.
be
No.
wrong.
I'm just really curious because I know they closed the Lance Storm school, right?
Yeah.
But he's down in Calgary right now,
So,
I think.
I don't know.
Yeah, I just saw his
100%.
story. I guess he was in Calgary.
Yeah, his Instagram story. Yeah.
So the story with David was like, he I guess he went to train at Lance's, and then this was several years ago, and he ended up not finishing his training, and then he went to go take a booking in Ottawa or something, or Edmonton it was. Sorry, not Ottawa. And then I guess Jericho didn't want him to do the show.
He pulled him out of it, right?
Yeah, because he wasn't, he wasn't fully trained, and the hardest thing of being a second generation is dealing with that expectation and that standard.
That's true.
You don't want to go out there your first match, and of course it's going to be filmed, it's going to be blown up online as your debut. You know what I mean? Like, so Jericho did the right thing.
100%, man.
And so David was always a little bit apprehensive, and I understand why. Just because I'm not in the same exact shoes as him, but I understand that pressure, to live up to such a legendary legacy. But his, his situation having the details and stuff that it has, I always thought it was really hard for him, And so that's when I hear that he's actually going to get back into training and taking it seriously. I think that's really cool because
absolutely, man.
I think it's very hard to do. It's very hard to really, you have to give your life to wrestling. You can't. You can't have a day job and also
can't half-ass it. You know what I mean?
That's why I feel for a lot of the people that have to work a shoot job and also wrestle on the side, because they're working twice as hard, just to make it to the bookings and stuff, and they're also working their day job and stuff too. But if I couldn't sustain myself 100% through wrestling and had to work a regular job, it would be very, very difficult to do, as far as the fitness regimen and the training and the staying sharp in the ring. And then you're also marketing online all the time.
It's a lot of stuff, man.
Doing things like this. So, no, I hope he does really well. And it looks like he's got a pretty good following on the internet already. People are following him. He's and that's the smart thing to do, right? Like, that's what I did. Before I really got going, is I stayed up on the social media my whole life, and I built up that following and stuff.
Just gotta interact, man. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, and like I remember my trainers. I remember Lance was worried. He was like, "Oh, well, you shouldn't have. I guess built." He's like, "You should have built yourself up so much online before you started."
Because you have that pressure,
too much exposure and expectation. But I told Lance, I was like, "Look, I've been doing social media since I was a kid. Like, I can't, go back and undo all the fucking followers I got. Like,
it's normal now.
I'm gonna do me. And if I like I said, if I sink, I sink. If I swim, I swim. If I fail, I fail. And I went out there and I had my first match, and it was put on YouTube. And people liked it. They thought it was pretty good. There was some good little highlights from it. So it's like, I can't complain. I didn't go out there and shit the bed. It wasn't a great, looking back, it was fucking, it wasn't a great match.
But it was still,
I had my boots, boots on, I had my boots and trunks, good old classic look. Went out there, and I was still really fresh from the Lance Storm training school. So I was very sharp with my fundamentals and stuff. Like, I wasn't no slouch. I knew how to do the basics, really good. And then after not being at his training school for several months, and then you start to get little bit lazy on those fundamentals, and then you got to rehash them. You got to find another school to keep training and stuff. And that's the thing. You got to stay sharp. You got to stay sharp.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's actually funny you say that, because we both want to be wrestlers too, and it's something a little bit that this podcast has been doing. We've been gaining a little bit of a following, just a little bit of reach, and it's definitely a lot of fun. I think it could be used to your advantage as well when you feel the time is right to
Absolutely,
step into
man.
the ring.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, I just hit the iron, right when it was hot, and I never took no for an answer, and I kept going forward,
Just kept moving with the ball, man. Yeah.
And I kept taking bookings, even though sometimes I would drive to these bookings and I would be so like not looking forward to it because I knew I was gonna suck, I knew I was gonna fail, and that the other kids in the locker room were gonna be resentful that I only got booked as my last name, and this kid doesn't like me because he thinks I'm the shits, and then slowly but surely, I earned the respect of my peers and I earned the respect of my fellow wrestlers because I just kept going out there. I kept trying.
Kept doing your thing.
Yeah. I got better and better and better. And now I go out there and I really feel like I own the ring.
You really fucking do it, man. You really kill it out there.
I'm just comfortable out there now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to take a long time for anybody getting into the business, but perhaps even David, he's going to have those growing pains. But that's going to be a part of his story too, just like it was a part of my story.
That's
right?
true. Yeah.
There's a story in the real life world that's separate from this kayfabe world that we live in. You can plot all the storylines you want and talk about this so and so and this guy got pushed over this guy, but at the end of the day, we're performers and we're getting thrown into this business under this false pretense that we're these legendary children of these gods that dominated the wrestling business for so many years, and so the expectations are high.
Absolutely,
and
man.
I wouldn't have it any other way. I wake up every morning with a mission and a goal, because of that legacy that was set before me, and because my father passed away and left me this awesome journey, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, not everybody has that. Some people might wake up and go, "Oh, well, I'll just say fuck it and not work out today," but if I wake up in the morning and if I don't eat right and if I don't work out and train, I feel like I'm slapping my father's grave in the face. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm pissing on his ashes if I don't train every day. So it's a high standard to live by, but it's something that I'm starting to take really, really seriously. And I think being around the Hart family and being around Davey and Teddy really inspired that in me because they're very serious individuals. They're very serious about wrestling. Good. It's very real to us, to put it plainly. And
especially the Hearts.
Another guy that's like that is Cody Rhodes.
Wrestling's
very serious to that man, and it's very much his life. It's Dustin as well. So I like being around people like that. I like being around the company at AEW because everybody has a very very passionate, very serious about wrestling.
That's how it should be, man. Absolutely.
Definitely, man. Definitely. But on our podcast, we also like to tap into mental health as a topic. So if you're comfortable with sharing, of course, have you ever struggled with your mental health? And what advice would you give to someone who's watching that could currently be struggling?
Yeah, I'll tell you some things that maybe most people don't want to hear.
It's all good, man.
But yeah, this is just my kind of take on it. Some people agree with me, some people don't. But I think mental health is something that is always evolving, especially in the world of today. But I grew up with, like the teachers and stuff, they would say, "Oh, you got ADD, you got this, you got that." But I never got medicated, right? I never, because my mom really didn't care what the teachers were saying. She wasn't that attentive to me anyways. I never got put on ADD medicine. I never got put on anything. I never got put on antidepressants or anti-anxiety. I learned to just deal and to just cope with it, and it made me stronger. And then getting into my older years and getting into college, I did have a lot of stress and anxiety and turning in assignments, and then also just the depression of dealing with certain situations. I definitely dealt with depression over the lockdown period. But I think and this is just a theory, but I think that just the use of technology and the gravitation of the society geared towards the being on the screens and all the extra stimulation and all the extra dopamine from video games and movies and entertainment is what spoils us, and it really blasts our receptors with so much feel good stuff. that when we don't have those things, or when we're forced to maybe go to work, or we're forced to do something that we don't want to do, it's almost like super depressing, and it's like super like anxious, and it's like, oh my God, like it's like and then like because you're so desensitized to entertainment, whether it's video games or even porn or all these other things, that your body is just, it's like you're getting a withdrawal, it's like
in a way.
Like, it's like when you can't put your phone down, you keep picking your phone up and you're looking at Twitter or Instagram, and then all of a sudden you're depressed or you're in a bad mood because there's no new content. It's like, to me, the cure for depression is to take all of those things that we so easily consume in our everyday lives, like that entertainment, and to just put it on the back burner for a while, go outside, experience nature, you got to experience the sunlight, maybe if somebody that's seriously dealing with depression and anxiety, before you go to a doctor and ask for all these medications and these pills that they basically just designed to, mess you up even more, I think. Try outside and really experiencing the world, and maybe go hiking, or maybe take your cell phone and like turn it off for like a week, I think we're a very young society as far as technology goes, and we're the guinea pig generation of social media. And so all these apps and all these games, especially video games, are designed for you to do mental gymnastics, essentially. Like your brain is doing jumping jacks, and your brain is on a roller coaster of emotions and dopamine and all this other shit, that if we just took a step back from it and realized that at our very core, we're human, we're Homo sapiens. Like, we need to go to the gym, and we need to, especially as men, we need to go and we need to lift, and we need to feel useful, and we need to feel physical. But especially when it comes to men's health, because I can't speak for all the women out there, because I don't understand their plights and their woes. But as a guy, I know that I'm 100% happier when I'm productive, and when I made it to the gym, and I've worked out, and I've eaten something healthy. Also eating healthy is very important for mental health too.
Absolutely.
But like, I'm no superhuman. Like, I definitely have my anxiety and my stress and my depression, but I think we need to be careful about taking medications and stuff when there's so many alternatives to that. Like, for hundreds of years, for thousands of years, humans survived, and they didn't take all these pills and all this, like, I feel like the pharmaceutical industry is kind of profiting off of our suffering in a way, instead of saying, hey, you should get in the gym more, and you should do this, or you should run in the mornings. They say, oh, well, here's Vyvanse, or here's this, or here's whatever pill they're going to get. You know what I mean? It's like,
it's just a bad cycle of things.
I'd be Brian Pillman, but I am the opposite of Pillman. Like, I don't take pills. Some people drink, and some people smoke weed, and I know marijuana is very beneficial for a lot of people too. But even that's another dopamine receptor right there, is marijuana. So maybe some people smoke weed every day, and then that one day that they didn't they have like a withdrawal, or they have a breakdown, or they're upset, they got a headache. Like, I've seen people just be pissed off because they didn't get to smoke weed that day. And then people say, oh, it's not addicting. And I'm like, well, it is. So is caffeine. Like, I just had my coffee today because I needed my coffee. And people try to say caffeine's not a performance enhancing drug. Yeah, right. Caffeine is totally, a performance enhancing drug. You got your Bang energies, you got your Starbucks. How many people go to Starbucks every day of their life?
That's true. Yeah.
How many? So you take all these substances that we're constantly juggling. You got caffeine, dopamine, all this other shit, and then people wonder why they're having depression and mental anxiety and stuff. It's like, well, the writing's on the wall.
It's right there, man. Yeah.
You can't go a day without a cup of coffee. You can't go a day without a joint. You're on your phone all the time, so you're plugging yourself with dopamine. You're watching YouTube. You're playing video games. It's like, give your brain a break.
Yeah.
And it will give you a break.
That's true.
Give your brain some time to rest, and then your brain will stop being so depressed and anxious all the time. That's the way I look at it.
Some great advice, man.
And that's
Really
and no way that I want to offend anybody with that, but I'm just trying to improve myself, and I follow a lot of like self-improvement pages online, and I've always been just trying to, like you said, on top of mental health, just like men's health and like where we are at in society, and how do people value, what a man contributes to this world.
For sure. Yeah. And it's your perspective on it too, you know what I mean? No one has to get offended by it. So it's your perspective and outlook on things, and for sure. But you had many struggles growing up, as you mentioned, but you had an underdog story, you know what I mean, growing up. And it led you to becoming the man you are today. What advice would you give someone who's young and had a similar struggle growing up?
It's weird because because my dad was passed away. I had a very hard time taking to authority and doing what I was, doing what I was told, whether it's like teachers or principals. Like I was just a bad kid. I was a very rebellious kid because I didn't like anybody telling me what to do, because to me it was like, well, my dad should be the only one to tell me what to do, but he's not here, so fuck everybody else, right? And then my mom sort of neglected me in a way. So what happened was I had unlimited freedom of choice, limited choice to make decisions and to make mistakes, and that kind of worked out in a good way because I fucked up so much in my teen years.
That
like
you
just getting
learned,
so much
right.
like it during the years where like you don't go to jail for shit like that. Like you don't get like if you get pulled over and you're 16 and the cops like, okay, like we're not gonna, you know what I mean? Like they're gonna slap you on the wrist. You're gonna learn. You're gonna make mistakes when you're young, because I had that freedom of choice. That it made me smarter and wiser as I got into college and as I finished high school. By the time I finished high school, I like had all the partying and all the mistakes and all the stupid shit out of my system, so that I could now say, all right, I need to buckle down. I need to get this college degree and focus on school. And I played lacrosse in college. And that's another thing too. The sports, like the high school football and the college lacrosse, they helped get me out of trouble and out of hanging out with the bad group of kids, because like I said, I was just pitted in a shitty neighborhood with full of drugs and violence and all kinds of stuff. But what got me out of it and away from that was just making those mistakes early, and then wanting to be an athlete and wanting to be like my dad and wanting to play football. For sure. Well, want to play football, you have to have good grades, right? They're not going to let you play. You got good grades. So to me, it was like, oh, being an athlete made me a better person. And then being a better person enabled me to finish college, which not many people have done, So looking back, I think financially, I think college is in a hard spot right now because with student loans racking up and they're not even having classes are online and stuff. Like today, I would not recommend a kid go straight to college out of high school because there's so much free information on the internet.
Honestly,
I agree. Go get an IT certification for, $1,200, or you can go get the same education I had for $40,000 and basically get the same job. So because that's what I was working in the database profession and stuff. But I won't discredit the value I got from my degree because I did understand business and technology at a higher level through my degree. Which helped in the pro wrestling business. There's a lot of things that I do at shows and online that people don't do because they didn't have the background and the education that I had. So I think that there is some value. There is a lot of value to going to college and to getting that degree. But going into 2021 and like today's like when I was in school, like they told you have to go to college. Like that's what my high school.
That was the go-to thing.
You have to go, and I was like, fuck, I'll just do what I'm told then because I already fucked up and made all these mistakes as a young kid. I want to be a good kid now, so I'll do what my English teachers told me to do. And then I did it, but it's like, okay, I got a good education, but I got $40,000 worth of debt,
Yeah.
And I think had I known what I know now about technology and the internet, I would have just saved that money and educated myself online. And I think a lot of people are going to switch to that. I think education is going to go through a revolutionary stage in these next few years, especially with the pandemic and stuff. And like Harvard and all these schools are still charging full tuition for these kids who are taking a fucking Zoom class. It's like,
yeah, it's crazy.
come on, it's like cut me some slack. So there's going to be a lot of changes in the world coming soon. And like I said, at the time it was the right decision for me. But if a young kid graduating high school right now, I would tell them to not go to college unless they're just straight up set on being a doctor, Like, don't go to college just to go to college. Like, I literally just went to get, like, and it was like, oh, I'm a business major. It's like,
yeah, it's not your thing.
Yeah, now, don't do that now. You don't want that package. But at the time, it was good for me, and it helped me advance my life. And I can tell people that I have a college degree. So,
yeah,
absolutely.
It's basically just a flex at this point because I'm a pro wrestler, so I didn't really need to.
Yeah,
for sure, man.
Switching gears here a little bit, I was scrolling through Instagram recently, and I saw a screenshot of an old tweet of yours in 2017, and MJF had responded to it saying, "See you down the road, kid." So you've faced him in the past in MLW, but do you see that match happening on the bigger AEW stage at any point?
Well, let's just say, and this has kind of been my, sorry, I guess I have another one coming up in like 5 minutes. We've been going for a hot minute, but
yeah, it's all good.
No, you're fine. I was running you guys late anyways, but no, it's funny because I have this weird, I guess, philosophy or sort of prophecy, legacy, whatever in my head that I think me and MJF are going to culminate in a very big and important feud one day. And I think him and I are going to put on some magical matches for you guys. Whether there's a championship or a title involved, I'm not sure what that'll be or what the premise is or the circumstances of it will be. But I can assure you that him and I are on a parallel wavelength of he's this ultimate heel that's everybody hates, and he's coming up in the business. He's hot, he's ready, and of course I have my story and what I represent coming up in the business. And we're in a way we're like polar opposites. You know what I mean? He comes from a family of wealth and of comfort, and he played football, but he dropped out of college because he wanted to wrestle, and he had the money to just kind of fly himself around and get over. And of course he has super talented, right? But you know what I mean? He had the means to kind of get going. Where on the other hand, I, came from a place of poverty and a place of losing my father and coming up in the business and doing it kind of the hard way but then I went to college, and then I finished college because I thought I had to do it as like a backup plan, or like just because I wanted to be a normal person. I didn't have the money to just say, oh, I can just drop out and go travel and wrestle and stuff. Like I wanted to have that security. So I always have this weird theory that we're like these parallel.
The writing's on the wall, man.
Parallel people. Yeah. And I think it's fit to make probably what I think will be one of the greatest stories that will be told in pro wrestling.
Absolutely, man. In the
world. So, and then the the caveat to that is that we're great friends, right? Like without breaking kayfabe, like my girlfriend and his girlfriend are best friends. Mm-hmm. So like he met his girlfriend through my girlfriend because we worked so much at MLW. I'd bring my girlfriend to the shows, and then like she brought her friend, and then now they're dating, and it's like. So it's like
kind of worked out, man. Yeah.
It's like this cool. It's very poetic relationship that I have with MJF. So I hope that we can see that play out in AEW.
I hope we do, man. I hope we really do.
It sounds like it could be something really special.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but I also see you. Oh yeah.
I think I was the better football player, but.
Yeah. But I also see you talking about eating spinach a lot on Instagram. So what's your diet like, man?
Well, as a lot of people have been asking me if I'm on steroids because I'm really jacked lately. And the answer is yes. There is steroids, spinach. So spinach has a certain type of steroid in it called ecdysterone. And it's used by insects to like harden their exoskeletons and to replenish. It's like kind of like a protein that like builds up their shells.
Yeah.
and I guess there's been a lot of studies shown, and you'll notice a lot of insects will eat spinach, but there's been a lot of studies shown that compound in spinach actually helps muscle growth and muscle strength in humans as well. So when I started, a buddy of mine on Twitter named Based Spinach or Spinach Bra or it's just a young like 18-year-old bodybuilder kid. Okay. I thought it was a meme account, but it turns out this kid's like 17 or 18. He's a bodybuilder.
Oh, wow.
And he, preaches the whole, the gospel of spinach. Mm-hmm. And when I was listening to that gospel, it really inspired me. And so I started incorporating a lot of spinach into my diets. Mm-hmm. So it's really not just a Popeyes meme. Like, it really, really works. And I saw increased gains all across the board. Just eating spinach every meal. Like, I eat it with just grilled chicken, a bunch of spinach, and a bunch of rice, and it's just a balanced meal. And so when people think I'm all on steroids and shit, I'm like, nah, bro, I'm just eating spinach, I'm on that Popeye diet, brother.
Yeah, bro. Oh, yeah. But we have one final question, man. And I like to end our interviews with this question. What's the next chapter for Brian Pillman Jr.?
I used to not really know because I always left it up to chance, and my trainer always told me, well, you don't get to decide where you go, they decide you, the companies will decide you,
Yeah.
If you're fit for a certain style and New Japan wants to bring you in, and you take that opportunity, or if you get a call from WWE, you take that call, But so far, the calls that I've been getting and the road signs and the writing on the wall is pointed towards AEW.
Absolutely, yeah.
This whole journey kind of started with the pandemic and being locked down and getting a random phone call from Diamond Dallas Page, which was basically just set to motivate me and inspire me through the pandemic. And it was an invitation to come down to Atlanta and do some yoga and get my life back and get my fitness back on track, which ultimately turned into just a whirlwind of events that led to me training at the Nightmare Factory with Cody Rhodes and QT Marshall, and using their top tier weight room facility that they have as well, which kind of put me on the right track with fitness too, which turned into an email from Christopher Daniels, which turned into a booking at AEW, which we saw at AEW Dark. So again, I'm out here chasing opportunities and chasing a dream, but that they came to me and they gave me an opportunity because they saw that hunger and they saw that fire in me, and they saw that when I went down there to train that I wasn't playing games anymore. You
were the deal, man. You were the
pandemic has done nothing but make me more grateful and more appreciative for wrestling. We are very privileged to do what we do, and people need to realize that you don't just get to be a wrestler.
Yeah, it's not that
all
easy.
The people online, talking about wrestling, it's like you don't understand how much it takes and how lucky you have to be even be able to do this job. Like, you can't just throw on some kick pads and go out there and be a pro wrestler. It
takes a lot, man.
It takes a certain type of star power. It takes a certain type of charisma. And it takes a certain type of drive and work ethic to have the best gear and to invest in your gear and to have the best body and the best look and to invest the time in the working out, to invest the time in the gymnastics, to perform the moves safely, and to do the exciting things that you see the Young Bucks and Jungle Boy and them do. It takes so much training and it takes so much athletic ability. So.
Well, wow, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Thank you.
And then we like to play a quick game before we let our guests go.
Sorry, did I answer that last question probably? What was the last question?
Oh, what's the next chapter for Brian?
Oh, the next chapter. Yeah, so obviously it's the next chapter is sorry. Taking that opportunity at AEW and turning it into a time deal and hopefully getting signed to something exclusive for Dynamite and being on TV.
I can see it happening, man.
But like I told I told Tony this and I told everybody, I have no problem being on Dark. Because like we talked about earlier, there's hundreds of thousands.
Dark's a great place. Yeah.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
And if I can add a little bit of flair and a little bit of star power to that show, it's great.
Yeah.
More than half of the matches are going on dark. Get
Absolutely,
me on.
man.
Get me in the ring. Let me express my art to you guys. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So, to end things off, we'd like to play a quick game with our guests. We have 10 names for you, and you can use one word to describe each name.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to kick things off with Davey Boy Smith Jr.
He is a dragon.
Teddy Hart.
Demon.
MJF.
Chicken shit.
Jacob Fatu.
Monster.
Enzo Amore.
Microphone.
Bret Hart.
Legend.
Owen Hart.
Owen was a martyr for our business.
Definitely. Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Money.
Chris Jericho.
Everything. The package.
Yeah. Lastly, but the late great Brian Pillman Sr.
Crazy. Who's
Well,
cannon?
There we go.
Well, it's like
Yeah.
if anything, that was his biggest contribution was that character work, and
Yeah, he was really good.
he inspired a lot of people, to
Mhm.
work that style and that's, I think when I talk to people, that's the most influential thing they think about is the loose cannon stuff. And obviously his Flying Brian days were good, but there's a lot of guys doing that type of stuff back then, like, Ultimo Dragon and things like that, like the lucha guys that my dad was inspired by. So I don't think he reinvented the wheel on the cruiserweight style. He definitely had some of the best matches of that era, of that style.
Yeah.
But when it came to the
100%.
loose cannon character shit, he really
He was on top of it, yeah.
New deal with that.
Yeah,
So.
absolutely.
Absolutely. But where can we find you on social media?
Of course, check me out at twitter.com, Flying Brian Jr., and on Instagram at Flying Brian 41.
All right, man. Sounds great.
Thank you so much for joining us, man. We really appreciate it. And thank you very much.
Take it easy, brother.